Sarah Haas Podcast, curated stories with creators of memorable brands in wine, drinks, and hospitality. Hey everyone, this is Gabrielle, and in today's episode I'm speaking with Michele Faro, the owner of Pietradolce, a famous winery in Sicily. It is located just on the slopes of Etna Volcano, which is one of the world's most active volcanoes. Michele proudly calls himself a patient farmer who in 2005 took a risk and began crafting wines on Mountain Etna, at a time when Etna wines were largely overlooked. It took 10 years of hard work and patience to build Pietradolce's reputation for producing high-quality wines. And today, Pietradolce is one of the best wineries in the area, selling wine in over 25 countries. Etna region is known for its volcanic soils, hot climate, but having vineyards 800 meters above the sea level creates a unique opportunity to develop very elegant wines. Just before we dive in, I want to tell you about Phylloxera insect. In the early 1860s, people noticed that vines in Rhone Valley and around Bordeaux in France are suffering and dying. It turned out that an insect called Phylloxera was brought to Europe from the United States. So Phylloxera is this microscopic yellow insect that attacks the roots of the vine. The solution was to take American roots that are resistant to Phylloxera and graft European vines on them. It is believed that between 70 and 90% of all vineyards in Europe were destroyed by Phylloxera. Now, why am I telling you this? Because Mountain Etna is one of the very few areas in Europe that Phylloxera insects did not attack, because these insects could not survive in the volcanic soils. Hence, in Mountain Etna, you can find some vines that are even 150 years old. Okay, that's all from me. Let's hear the story of Pietradolce. Michele, your grandfather, who was also called Michele, was a small farmer holding just 2 hectares of land. I understand one was for vineyards and one was for lemon trees. And then your father grew out that business into a huge plant nursing business growing over 5,000 types of Mediterranean plants. You are now a farmer yourself. Was this something you always wanted to do?
That's been always in my mind, in my idea. And it was my focus since the beginning, since I was a child. Because, my life was always in the agriculture business, in landscaping business, which is my father's business. So I was born in a nursery, let's say. So agriculture is my blood. And my grandfather was a farmer, a small farmer, and he had the same name I have. So I'm very proud about it. And that's it. I never had any other idea than being involved in agriculture business, in farming. What I like to say is that we are farmers. So when we approach something which is concerning farming, we know what to do. We know what to do. Let's say we started with Pietradolce, with vineyards, and in my background, even if I have, even because I am an agronomic engineer, that's my degrees at university. In my background, there is agriculture anyway. Then for sure you have to adapt your knowledge to vineyards instead of landscaping, but the base is really similar.
Can you tell me a little bit more of what you remember of your grandfather? Because I understand he was a big influence.
Yes, I remember about my grandfather. He was a very, let's say, very simple man, first of all. He did not have any driving license, you can imagine. So he had a small, let's say, it's kind of tractors, 3 wheels. And I remember the harvest time, because he owned 1 hectare vineyards. And I remember very clearly the harvest time was a kind of party for us because all together the family were pressing the grapes, with our feet, and it was really amazing. And then after this, you had a kind of party with barbecue and whatever you can imagine. So, and I remember in the afternoon he was coming back from the farm, from the small farm he owned, and taking us all these amazing vegetables, very, very organic. That's what I remember, and I'm very happy when I remember all this.
Sicily today is one of the most exciting wine regions in Europe. A lot of people have already discovered it, some are still discovering it. Most of the wine producers here started making wine just in the last 20 or 30 years. Can you talk a little bit more about Sicily and specifically Etna as a wine region?
Yeah, Sicily is an amazing island. It's the biggest island in the Mediterranean and is a kind of crossway since the Greek Empire. So it's an island where the wine was made was since that time, which is very long time ago. But if we want to talk of the last 30 years, let's say, Sicily, since the 90s, 1990, let's say more or less, became a very hot area about wine. At the beginning was the wine on the coastline, was more Nero d'Avola, and Catarratto in other area than Mount Etna. And then about 20, 25 years ago, the movement on Mount Etna started, even thanks to people coming from other regions of Italy, which is not a problem for us. We are Sicilian, we are from Catania, we are from this Etna area, but we don't complain if some other people discover before than us Mount Etna. So why not? And now, and I like to say that Etna is an island in the island, a kind of different area compared to all the rest of Sicily, because you produce different wines. You produce on Mount Etna wines in altitude, because we are at about 800, 900 meters above sea level.
What does that change?
Yeah, change in terms of finesse, elegance, for sure. Because there is a joke I like to say, we produce mountain wines in the extreme south of Italy, which is something strange, because you produce in the extreme south of Italy, so you imagine wines, very body wines, strong wines, but at the same time they have elegance and finesse thanks to the altitude. So, and then you add to this the volcanic soil, you add to this the elegance and the nice acidity of Caricante and Nerello Mascarese. All together, you have something unique, really unique.
So in 1990s and in early 2000s, you start seeing some developments in Sicily. People are starting making wine. Then a couple of years later, in 2005, you turn 30 and decide to become a winemaker yourself. Was there a specific winery or people that you were following? How did you come to make this decision?
That time I felt in love for wine industry, but thanks to my passion for wine, at that time I was starting, drinking different wines, and I especially felt in love for, all these Barolo wines. No, that's my inspiration as a wine region in Italy, or Burgundy if we talk about France. So curiosity pushed me to discover new wine, to drink new wine, passion for wine, and then all this started, and we bought in 2005. We bought the first piece of land here, where our winery is actually, and my specific idea at that time was to build in the future the winery in this place. And that's what we did 6 years ago. So it was a kind of dream. And finally, the dream is done, is here. The winery is here.
What did you like about this specific area?
This is what somebody called the Golden Valley of Mount Etna. Somebody called the Golden Valley or the Côte d'Or of Mount Etna. This is a specific area with a specific microclimate, totally different compared to the other places on Mount Etna. From Rovitello to Randazzo is really a kind of Golden Valley with big different temperature between night and day, giving flavor, giving character, to our wine, to the Etna wine, very different compared to other areas, even on Mount Etna. So this is really the Golden Valley, what we call.
So you left the family business where you were working at the time. What did your family think?
I started and I tried to keep a kind of parallelism with these two businesses because I love both of them. And, they did not complain because, it's wine, and wine business was in our blood even before, thanks to my grandfather, Michele. So that's why they did not complain. We started this business as we started in the following years, other business in tourism, for instance, with our boutique hotel Donna Carmela, or with our botanical park Radice Pura. So it's all about farming and agriculture, different sectors, different subjects, but all about agriculture. So they did not complain, and now for sure at that time was a risk, because Mount Etna was not such a popular place as it is now. And it was a risk, it was a challenge. We were very few people on Mount Etna at that time taking the risk, very few friends, very few growers and friends, something like 10 people, no more. Now it's probably under 50, I don't know. I'm very proud to say that the challenge and the risk that we took at that time, it's now giving us great satisfactions.
Did you think you're going to make any money out of it?
Wine business is a very long-term business. So you cannot approach this business as a businessman. Let's say you cannot calculate, 100,000 bottles the second or third harvest, and I will invoice 100,000, so I will have this turnover. That's a big mistake. You can never do this. You have to wait and wait and wait. Minimum, let me say 10, 15 years. Because you have, first of all, you have to build your reputation. You have to build your label reputation. You have to produce quality, especially on Mount Etna. You can do any mistake. You have to accept that it costs a lot of money cultivating vineyards on Mount Etna, because you work by hand, you pick by hand, you transport your grape by hand. So it's a lot of cost. But if you accept all this, after some years, you have your results. If you do a good job, for sure, after 10, 12 years, let's say, you can have your satisfaction.
Most of your vines are 80 to 120 years old. That's very rare. Can you talk a little bit more about these vines? How are they so special?
Yeah, Mount Etna, we have this great value which are Prephyloxera vines. They are not everywhere, so we are lucky to own a few of them that resisted to Phylloxera. Phylloxera was this terrible insect who destroyed all the many vineyards all around. And luckily on Mount Etna, thanks, people say, some people with a big knowledge say, thanks to the volcanic soil, the Phylloxera did not attack some of these vineyards. So when we started producing wines on Mount Etna, myself, I felt in love for these very old vineyards. At that time, it's important to say the value of these vineyards was not very interesting in terms of money producing wine from these vineyards, because they produce 1 or maximum 2 kilos per vine, per plant. So as a rentability was not for sure ideal. So many, probably not many, but some Prephyloxera vineyards were transplanted in order to put in the ground new vineyards, which was a disaster in my opinion. So I saw when we started producing wine here, I saw very old, monumental Prephyloxera vineyards transplanted in order to put new wines that in 3 years give you 6 or 8 kilo per vine. And but luckily, something like 10, 12 years ago, people understood the value in terms of identity, of terroir identity of these vines. So they stopped transplanting, and they are now taking care of these vineyards, which I consider as a monuments, old monuments. When you have an old monument, as an old church or whatever, or an old building, you try to protect him, not to destroy him. And that's what I think. So luckily we have these vineyards that resisted to phylloxera. Now we are taking care about them, and the variety that we cultivate are the local grape variety of Mount Etna. So Nerello Mascalese, which is a deep skin, dark color grape variety. The same name say this. Mascalese because the origin of these grape varieties is from Contea di Mascali, which is an area down near the sea. Mascale is the name of a town, and probably originally from that area, the Nerello Mascalese has its origins. Nerello Cappuccio is another variety of Nerello. Cappuccio means a small hat, like, something like this. And then, and these are the two main red varieties. And then we cultivate for our white wine Caricante. Caricante means powerful. Caricare, it's a grape variety that gives a lot of fruit. So that's what we do. That's the main variety that we cultivate on Mount Etna.
And when you're making your wines, are they all 100% just a single grape variety, or you're blending them?
No, we only use a single grape variety. We only use these varieties. We are really traditionalist in terms of selection, and we love once again producing our cru and Grand Cru using only Prephyloxera. This is the choice that I made since the beginning. You can produce a single vineyard's wine, even a cru, what you call a cru, even using a young vineyards. But the extra value I want to give to our wines is to produce a single vineyard's wine only using Prephyloxera, which is an extra value. And you can easily discover that it's a Prephyloxera wine of Pietradolce when you see the volcano lady on the label. The volcano, it's a nice lady on the label, and that means Prephyloxera.
When you think about Prephyloxera vines, most of them are between 80 and 120 years old now. Is there a time when a plant dies or doesn't give any yield anymore? What do you do then?
Yes, when we say Prephyloxera is from 80, in our case from 80 till 140 years old. We have Caricante in the village of Milo that we use for our Archineri Etna Bianco and our Sant'Andrea, which is 140, 145 years old, which is amazing. And for sure we take care about it. You know, vines are plants who can resist a long time. So I really hope that they will never die. But for sure, sometimes some plants die. So that's the nature. But they can still, in my opinion, survive quite a lot.
So Sicily as a region is booming. In 2005, you acquire your first land on Mountain Etna, which is the most active volcano in the world. You have these very unique Prephyloxera vines you're producing from indigenous local grape varieties. It takes you 2 years to produce your first vintage. Can you tell me what was this process like, and then how did you go about creating Pietradolce brand?
Yeah, when we started with Pietradolce was a kind, as I said, challenge. It was a kind of nice joke, because it was only 3 hectares land, and it was a very small winery, 300 square meter in another place, and we were like young kids playing with their best toys. No, I mean it doesn't mean that we had to lose money in that case, but we were very happy to start this adventure. And it was small, and we started with about we started exactly with the 3,600 bottles of Archineri Etna Rosso 2007, which was our first vintage with a very, very limited production. And since the beginning, luckily, it was successful. All the main Italian guides tasted the wines, and they were very happy about this and satisfied. And so it was amazing for us because we were very young. It was our first harvest. And then 2008, Archineri Etna Rosso 2008, which was still the only label of production, was about 6,000 bottles, so not much more, because it was a time that we did not want to take too much risk, because step by step, that's what I prefer, going step by step, because when you start making wine and you start producing 20, 30,000 bottles all in a sudden, you make a mistake, in my opinion, because you have no reputation, you have no market, you have no sales history. So that's why, step by step, and we started. And before, for sure, we create our brand, Pietradolce, which means sweet stone. Sweet stones because on Mount Etna you have a lot of rocks, no? You have a lot of rocks. Sometimes when you say rock, it means something negative because you cannot work very easily the land. But in this case on Mount Etna, for us is totally positive, because when you have rocks, you have first of all you have a fertile land thanks to the minerality of the rocks, small or big rocks. Then you have a very soft soil, the water go down very easily, so you don't have an heavy soil. So rocks on Mount Etna are something really positive. So that's why sweet stone was Pietradolce, sweet stone, and that's what that's the meaning. And then the label, for sure. I asked a friend of mine who live in Milan, who was not at all involved in designing labels of wine, which is good for me, to give us an idea regarding our label. And after a few weeks, he showed me this volcano lady, which want to represent an energetic Sicilian woman, but meantime Mount Etna, because as you probably know, Mount Etna is called by the local people La Montagna, a montagna in Sicilian dialect. So it's a female meaning. So for this reason, we decided to express our mountain, our volcano, as an energetic Sicilian woman. That's why. And meantime, it means Prophyloxera, because all our crew with the volcanic woman on the label are Prophyloxera. That's for our crew and grand crew. For the entry level, it's a kind of sign representing, the movement that sometimes we have on Mount Etna in all the area, because we have small earthquake, no? So Mount Etna always is in movement. So that's what we want to represent with the label of the entry level wine. So that's more or less the history of Pietradolce from the beginning.
So today, Pietradolce is already recognized as a very successful brand, but can we go back in time when you were looking for local distributors, and then how did you grow internationally afterwards?
I am happy you say that Pietradolce is successful. We are very simple people who doesn't like to say, yeah, we are the best one, we are in the best one, in the group of the best ones. For sure, we feel that the people and market love Pietradolce. People look for us. importers look for us. Unfortunately, we cannot say yes to everybody because we have a limited production, we sell by allocation, and we are very rigid and selective in select our importers all around the world. And but we feel it, and we are very happy that Pietradolce is a successful brand.
I suppose that didn't happen overnight. It was a lot of work to get here.
It was a lot because, believe me, at the beginning we were younger, we had no reputation, so it was not like this. At the beginning, Pietradolce was not reputed, but even Mount Etna was not reputed. I remember when I started traveling, for promoting our brand. Sometimes in some places you even had to explain where was Mount Etna, where was Sicily. It was not. That's why I say, okay, if people come now on Mount Etna, I joke, I say, okay, the table is already prepared, So no, you have your glass, your plate, your bottles on the table. But at that time, the table was totally empty. That's a saying that we have in Sicily. So now, we worked very hard to build together with other few people at the beginning the brand Etna. So it was very difficult at that time.
How did you do that? Was that for wine fairs, connecting with some distributor or importer? Were there any moments that gave like a significant boost to Etna region and then specifically to Pietradolce?
But wine fairs for sure. But I think that more or less 10 years ago, the palate and the taste of the people changed because, 20, 25, 30 years ago, the palate of the people was more on the body wine, Jamie wine, and the different style. Then it was, yes, thanks for sure to the quality job that we did on Mount Etna altogether, but for sure because the trend, the Etna and this style of wines, it means elegant wines, finesse, minerality, started becoming trendy, and people felt in love for this style.
At some point, there was this group of people called Etna Boys. What is that about?
Yes, there is this saying, it's, if I remember, we were very few people, no? And younger than now, so about 32 years ago. So I remember that Monica Larner, who came here on Mount Etna, I guess it was one of the first visits, say, okay, you seems like the Barolo boys, Etna boys. We were very few people, five or six very younger than now, younger boys. And so that's why she said this one.
But what did you do together? Did you travel together?
We did, no, not really traveling. Sometimes, yes, but we had the kind of weekly meeting all together, very few people, in a small bar here in Solicchiata. We had, I remember, it was a Friday night. We had the kind of aperitif tasting, and the aperitif was not other wine, it was our first vintages, tasting our first vintage with the small food like omelette or bruschetta, and but the excuse was to taste our first vintages, to see the way to take on the future altogether. So this was the name Etna Boys born, probably thanks to these meetings. Yes.
If we go back to the early days when you were starting to look for your first importers, how did you approach that, and how did you know whether it was the right fit?
It took time, really time. Took a lot of job, traveling quite a lot all around the world, like Asia or 3-4 times per year, or United States. So at the beginning was, let's say, the challenge was to convince the people, to convince the importers. And we changed some importers because we did not have the same feeling. Because, as I say, we are very rigid. In our portfolio of importers, we want people who have the same passion we have, who can give the best position of our wine in terms of restaurants or wine shops. When we find importers who became also friends during the year, we don't like to change.
And in how many countries is Pietradolce available now?
Pietradolce is available in about 25 different countries.
And do you remember what was the very first market that you exported to?
The very first market I exported to was the UK.
As you were looking for export partners, were there any markets that really surprised you? You were not sure if they're gonna like the wine, but it became a huge success?
We have been working hard to find a good position in Japan since about 10 years, and but we did not find the right people. Now we found, or they found us, the main player in Japan in terms of quality and even why not quantity of bottles. So this market is now surprising me quite a lot. In the last couple of years, we are really surprised about the request that we are starting to have from South America, because since 2 years ago we did not have any bottle in South America. Now we are starting with places like Paraguay, let's say, or Brazil, or Chile, if I remember, which is surprising us because at the beginning was nothing. But the place that surprises us quite a lot was Nepal. You know, we are imported in Nepal. You know, we have our import in Kathmandu, which is surprising us.
I suppose as Sicily and Mountain Etna became so popular as a wine region, do you see many new producers coming here from different countries or even other Italian regions just looking for some land or start making wine a little bit more commercially?
Yeah, you know, Mount Etna is becoming very crowded. Yeah, that's for sure, because you don't find a good piece of land no more as before. So that's for sure. There are people coming from other region of Italy. There were in the last 10 years big wineries from other big wineries from Sicily buying lands on Mount Etna. So, which is not bad, I think. What I always say to new people coming on Mount Etna is, please don't do any mistake in terms of quality, in terms of production, because few of us at the beginning they took a great risk for building the reputation of Mount Etna. So I really don't want that new people coming now, they can destroy this reputation. And how can you destroy the reputation? Producing bad wines, producing bad quality wines. But luckily, I have to say that people coming, big wineries or smaller wineries, are doing a good job till now.
If a customer is choosing a Mountain Etna wine, what should they be looking at?
Yeah, you know, Etna is a DOC, as many DOC in Italy, and there is a discussion regarding creating a DOCG, which means practically to put a kind of small paper around the bottle. But in my opinion, this will not give more value to the bottles. You know, the value of a single Etna bottle is the quality you find inside. I'm really traditionalist, and if we have a DOC since many years, it should remain a DOC. Then the difference will be made by the wine you find in the bottle.
It's been busy 3 decades for you and more. What was the biggest lesson you learned?
The biggest lesson in this wine industry is that you have to learn how to wait. Yeah, to not be stressed, not be pushed, to wait the right time to reach the right things. That's the biggest lesson.
Looking at the success Pietradolce has had, was there a single moment, when you were able to say yes? This really changed things for us.
Yeah, this was about 5-6 years ago. Yeah, when, as I told you, people started to ask Pietradolce. Yes, for sure, we had a lot of accolades, a lot of awards, a lot of great ratings. We have every year. We had and we have every year. But the biggest prize for me was when 4, 5, 6 years ago people start asking Pietradolce, and we did not have bottle enough. We had to start the allocation system. So at that time I said, okay, we made it.
this was my conversation with Michele Faro, the owner of Pietradolce. I don't know why, but on that day when I interviewed Michele, I really wanted to find some secret recipe to an overnight success. Just like to find that one moment when everything changed. And, I was asking him about wine fairs, about visiting different countries, and I don't think there was a singular event. As he said, one day the palate of people changes, elegant mineral wines became more appealing, and that was it. Or then recently a TV show called White Lotus filmed its second season in Sicily, and then suddenly the whole island was flooded with tourists. I suppose the conclusion is very simple. It's all about patience and persistent effort. Speaking of hard work, I spent another day at Pietradolce picking grapes, and I filmed it. It is insanely hard, but you can check out my journey and check out this rather amusing video on Sierra Haas YouTube channel.